In the world of education, there are a variety of written text forms which are taught and examined. These forms range from books to picture books to graphic novels. Typically, as students get older, educators tend to focus their instruction on novels with more words and less pictures. But I'm here to ask you not to forget about the humble comic book. In addition to being full of its own literary devices, the comic combines pictures and narratives in a way in which no other medium fully manages to replicate. Now, comics can be used as a teaching tool in a variety of ways. In addition to being a literary form in their own right, comics can be used as a motivational set to introduce new concepts. Educators can also get students to create their own comics to demonstrate understandings of concepts, including the workings of comics themselves. I'll give an example of how comics can be used as an assessment tool from my own interning experience. I was teaching a grade 5 class about the human body, and this particular lesson, students were learning about human skin and how it functions. And so to assess students' understanding, I had them create a comic which illustrated some of the things that they learned in the lesson. I had a wide range of student responses, but all of them included some kind of facts while also using the visual nature of the comic to their advantage. Okay, so let's say that you are going to use comics in your classroom. The first thing that's important to do is to come up with a plan about what you want the comic to be about. Is it designed to just tell a joke? Is it designed to share information? Is it designed to tell a story? For the purposes of this demonstration that I'm doing here, I was thinking back to my pre-internship in which there was a campaign called We Scare Hunger, and students had to come up with their own superheroes who would somehow solve issues around world hunger as kind of a motivational set and kind of an incentive for them to start thinking about how they could be active members of solving similar issues in their own communities. So I went ahead and started designing characters. I went and made this kind of bird character. I thought, I don't know, I was thinking along the lines of, cereal mascots and something fun and cutesy, and he's got this magnifying glass spork that is the key to his power, which is to make things grow bigger, and then therefore if you have bigger food, you can... Anyways, that's the gist of it. So I went ahead and made those designs. The other thing that is very important in the planning stage of comics is comics are made out of panels, and so you're going to need to set up your panels in a way that is conducive to your story. So I went ahead and just started roughing out the different panels, what I wanted to say, and I just used very rough drawings to indicate kind of the motion, that main idea of each panel, so that I could not waste too much time. If I wasn't sure, if there was something I didn't like, I could always go back and change it and not feel too like I was losing a bunch of time for having to go back. Panels, when they're bigger, that's a good way to show that section is taking more time in the story, or that it's more important, so you can really play around with those. You can play it with the spacing to make it more visually appealing. There's just a lot of fun things that you can do with panels in a comic that you can't necessarily do in a lot of other story types. Once you have your rough draft, then you can move on to the next draft, to the potentially the good copy. I went ahead and just used a computer program to create my panels for me, but you can very easily do the same thing with a pen and a ruler. Could even use a compass if you wanted to use the round panel like I did. And then you just go ahead and fill in all the details. If you are wanting to add that extra level of refinement to your comic, you can always add colors, either digitally or with markers or with pencil crayons. There's a lot of extra layers that you can add to give your comic that extra little touch. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I just went ahead and did something really simple. But you can still see how this can be used to tell a story, or how it can be used for students to develop those skills, or even to come to understand a concept a little bit better. So yeah, that is my instructional video. I hope that was helpful, and feel free to ask me any questions that you might have later on.